Okay, Monday, July 17th, 2023. All right. I was on some podcasts in America. It's not a very big one. It's called Savage Unfiltered. It's a right-wing podcast, and I think I got them pretty good. They understand Ukraine is a good guy, Russia's the bad guy. America can't hide itself and be isolated because, I gave them the old Pearl Harbor analogy. Also told them while the Cold War was on pause, the Russians and Chinese built up and now they have ambitions, global ambitions. And if we just sit around, we're going to be under a Chinese or Russian flag soon. I even got one of the guys on that. It was 2 versus 1, right? So I got one of the guys pretty much agreeing with me. The other guy, I was just calling him out on everything. I mean, these were he's like a Tucker Carlson wannabe, but he didn't go to Harvard and he's not quick, and he's ranting off stuff that's completely untrue. They got to do their homework first, and they're trying the same tactics like Fox does, like cut things out of context and grab sound bites. They were talking about Mike Pence talking with Tucker Carlson, and they took just one sentence of Mike Pence, but if you listen to the whole conversation, Mike Pence actually explained himself pretty well, that he wants America to be revived under conservative values and take care of our obligations abroad, uphold democracy so that this stuff doesn't blow back on us, that we need a proactive policy. Because believe you me, the Russian and Chinese policies are quite proactive, and you don't fight proactivity with reactivity. That's for sure. So, all the supply chains are interconnected, ICBMs, all this other stuff. So I even got one of the guys agreeing with me, but, it's fun. It's fun with these people, but it does bring up something more serious going on in America, that people are so ignorant that they hate Ukraine so much that they like Russia. They're so angry about money coming to Ukraine and, the corruption here and everything. But like I said, all that stuff is being logged in a computer and that will be dealt with. But we have a greater problem to deal with now. All these kind of wartime situations are less than perfect. And the situation at home is solvable even while helping Ukraine. It's just mismanagement, really. It's nothing to do with Ukraine taking money from one. They're not taking programs out of WIC and all this stuff and out of housing or whatever and sending it here. If they would just ban, like a housing problem, if they would just ban private equity and hedge funds and landlords, from owning too many houses, or, just have it like once, that even companies are not allowed to own houses. No LLC or corporate entity is allowed to own a single family home, and then limit single landlord ownership to 4 units. Believe me, that would flood the market with a lot of housing supply and everyone would be able to get a house. It's quite easily fixed through legislation, but, like I said, that's a bigger problem than, that's not Ukraine's fault. That's Americans, wanting to consume sound bites and wanting quick fixes and, just deliberately not taking interest in what's around them or broadening their scope, just trying to get everything off of YouTube and TikTok. This is like I said, I pointed out also they were trying to pin me down about COVID, and I told them I was triple vaxxed. I was like, to me the vaccine wasn't nothing. What bothered me about COVID was the hand sanitizer. The hand sanitizer is isopropyl alcohol. It takes off all the good oils and bacteria off your skin and then lets everything flow in. And not to mention that isopropyl alcohol works its way into the bloodstream. And that's got to be, that can't lead to anything good. I mean, if you drink isopropyl alcohol, you go blind. I mean, that's what happens when people drink bad moonshine. They die or go blind. And that's essentially what hand sanitizer is. It's just bad moonshine, So, I mean, these guys, I mean, I wish I could get on some bigger show in America and explain to them, how the world works. I got them pretty good too. I told them, this story in Scranton about 155 millimeter artillery rounds, reviving the demand for this is reviving the Pennsylvania manufacturing. And then he didn't even know when the Cold War was. I said, yeah, back in the 80s. Goes, oh, way back before. I was like, when? The 40s? I said, well, that's when the Cold War started. Like, I'll pin the video down below with these guys. But part of being American is having an open mind and even embracing your opposition when they're right. But these guys, they are so strong on their side that they will take any view as long as it's theirs, even if it's like supporting Putin. That's what's going on with the right wing in America. And you don't have Donald Trump, And I told them, Ron Paul, Tucker Carlson. I stopped short of Trump, but I do think Trump is in bed with the Russians. I haven't heard him being outspoken, about Putin, or how if he was president he'd go bomb him like Reagan. He's not talking like Reagan, and so I'm definitely having my reservations. I like a lot of what Trump says about domestic policy, bringing back American energy, closing the border wall. And I mean, to all you liberals out there, 1/3 of Mexicans are pro on Russia. It's like 40% of people in India have a positive view of Russia. 33% of Mexicans have a positive view of Russia. Right on our border. It's the highest number in Central America, in South America. Why is that? I mean, it's even more than Brazil or Argentina. There was some statistic I had seen the other day about people's sentiment towards Russia. It's like in Europe, it's like Hungary and I think Serbia or something are the highest. Here, on the European side, on the Western European side or Western-leaning European side, as far as being pro-Russian goes. So it's a problem, that border on the south is a problem. And like I said, my views, like I would say I'm an extreme moderate. I'm not extreme left, not extreme right. If I'm taking a view, it's on the extreme, but they all balance out to be moderate. So. But yeah, this is these bloggers in America, these right-wing bloggers and everything. I don't know why. I guess people listen to them because it's easy, right? It's like taking a drug or something versus, like if you're feeling sad and depressed, it's easier to take a pill than go to the gym and work through it, or go for a walk in the forest or something, or do something constructive. Everyone's looking for a shortcut. Everyone's looking, and this is a mentality in America that's got to change. That was something I was making clear on my video. They've got to declare war on processed food. It's not only affecting the mind, it's affecting the body. It's the chemicals, the amount of chemicals in those foods. Anything that comes in a box, you got to be suspicious. Any food that comes in a box, aside from like raw grains or something, unprocessed grain or unprocessed rice or unprocessed, you got to put them in something. But if it's like all ground up and full of colors and stuff, looking like little pellets like the Skittles or M&Ms, you got to be a bit suspicious. As I'm telling everybody, read this book by Upton Sinclair called The Jungle. You'll understand why we need government, and why people should take an active role in government. Instead of like trying to destroy the government, people should get involved in the government and make it better. Run for office, show up and vote, form political action groups or something, political action committees, and use their collective power. Boycott brands. Just this Budweiser thing was very effective. When people boycotted the transvestite beer. They gotta do more stuff like that. Boycott brands that like McDonald's. Boycott all this woke stuff and all this stuff making us sick. Or there should just be a collective boycott on Tyson Foods. All this like chicken grown up in those large-scale chicken coops. Believe me, food inflation is a good thing in America. It's better to have less of a higher quality food than a lot of a lower quality food. You can get by on 1,200 to 1,600 calories a day. Your body will thank you for it. You'll even feel more potency. You won't need any blue pills, that's for sure. If you're cut the calories, believe me, the blood will go somewhere else. So yeah, but that was interesting. And now, onto this thing about the cluster munitions. Yeah, Ukraine doesn't have a choice. It's situation on the Eastern Front is pretty bad. Russians have dug in, they've mined everything, and basically you're going to remove mines with bombs, essentially. I mean, that's mainly what the cluster munitions are going to be used for, is to clear a minefield and then do a quick breach. Quickly clear a minefield and then quickly do a breach. And it's extremely dangerous to the Ukrainians because they have to cross this land that was cluster bombed, and around 2 or 3% of those things don't go off according to the manufacturer. And I think, and the Russians will use them in response, and 40% of theirs don't detonate. So we're talking about the east of Ukraine is going to be turned into something like Afghanistan. It's just going to be full of mines, and it's going to keep EODs busy, for eternity. It's going to be like a new career path, like a civilian EOD. It won't be this military-only job. I think already you can get training for this and, be a volunteer. It's a hairy job because, I mean, a lot of those guys don't make it. I think it's just better to use a bulldozer and explode everything in place, instead of like trying to go there and, undetonate all of this. But then you got large, 500-pound bombs and stuff that need to be, they're probably too close to civilian places. Those need to be disarmed by hand. But I think those are probably more although, the impacting the ground and everything has probably made all their inner workings more sensitive. So who knows? It's like I said, they don't have a choice. The Republicans should be unanimous that anything that's bad for Russia, the whole U.S. Congress should be in on this. They should all be wanting to do this. And I'm glad to see Mike Pence, really taking leadership. He's a real gentleman. I want to talk more about Mike Pence. We're really lucky to have a conservative like him, like a level-headed conservative. He really does believe in his values. And they were trying to butcher him, for, what is it, not supporting the Russian Orthodox or bringing up the suppression of free religion in Ukraine. The Russian Orthodox Church here is completely corrupt. They were completely in the pockets of Vladimir Putin, and they were shut down. Believe me, you have a lot of freedom of religion here. Believe you me. I mean, a Baptist church here is alive and well, and you can be a Muslim here, you can be a Hindu here, you can be whatever you want here. Nobody has time to get into your business here. That's Ukraine has complete and total religious freedom. It's just when your church is like helping the Russians, then you might not get so much freedom because it's like a war. And I don't know what these right-wingers in America don't get about that. We're in the middle of a war. We have rockets exploding over civilian infrastructure, over apartment buildings, hitting the waterworks, hitting the electric grid, for the pure purpose of humiliating and degrading life of civilians, because the Russians can't fight, 1-to-1 on a battlefield. So I don't know what these right-wingers, history is not going to remember you very well, and even your own children. When you bring back the Constitution, let's say you win and bring back all the American history, a lot of what you believe in is going to be contradicted by what our founding fathers believed in, and what Ronald Reagan believed in, what Andrew Jackson believed in, So, yeah, be ready for that. You got to have your views. Maybe it's like this. Like, I disagree with 50% of the Republicans, 50% of the Democrats. But there's no overlap or no contradiction. You have to acknowledge where the other side is right. Like with Republicans, I acknowledge pro-life is right, but I acknowledge with Democrats, having welfare for single mothers and education for single mothers and stuff so they can have that baby and raise that baby without too much stress is also right. It's like the Republicans, they're pro-birth, but they're not pro-life. They want the girl to have the baby, but they don't want to give any money to help her out, for making that valiant decision. So mostly the time people get an abortion, it's like an economic reason, that they can't afford it. So that's very easily solved, right? You tax Elon Musk, Bill Gates, you tax, luxury goods, and you create a fund and take care of it, and then you put big penalties on the deadbeat dads who run off, that too, so people take responsibility. So if you, and it's like with the Democrats, I'm against the death penalty, as well, because that's also being pro-life. That's being consistently pro-life. I don't get how someone can be anti-abortion and pro-electric chair. I really don't get that one. So you have to have like consistent views. And I was like trying to convince these guys, let's have let's do like a extreme moderate. Let's do our own viewpoints. Let's work together and let's try to persuade people and change everything instead of just being a sock puppet for Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin. I told them, you guys got to do better than this, because not everyone is like a zombie. There's a lot of us Americans who've traveled and lived abroad and have a 360 perspective of the world. And believe me, the world is beautiful, but it's also dangerous, and it can creep up on America if we're not careful. A lot of people don't like us, and they want to take what we have, and these guys are just sitting in a trailer park in Florida, bantering on, thinking that they're going to get rich doing this. It's just, I don't know what America has become, but I don't know, we sure as hell need to be taxing billionaires and, putting the money into education, and not like in the way they're doing it now, but like directly, like all school teachers are federal employees paid $150,000 a year, full health insurance, full coverage, and they only get that salary if they agree to buy a house in the zip code they teach in. So, and this $150,000 a year would go to inner city teachers. The salary would go down the more rich the neighborhood would go. So there's incentive. We'd create a system where there's incentive to work in rural America or the inner city, and those teachers would have to, that salary, they would be required to make a home purchase, within 2 years or something, and settle there to have that salary. And so if you have teachers earning like investment bankers, you'll get the same quality of, you'll get Harvard grads going to West Virginia or going to the south side of Chicago, and they would bring their thinking with them, like, I'm talking about like the smart ones, not the hippie liberal ones, the ones that would go work on Wall Street and do investment banking. This would become a highly competitive job, and it would attract the best and the brightest and the most patriotic, from our top schools. And we'd instill American values, good math skills, good reading skills, and all of a sudden all these rural areas and inner cities, they can all become a Silicon Valley. They can all become a biotech place. They can all become something for the new economy. They can build nuclear power plants to replace coal plants in Virginia, in West Virginia. I saw some of the coal business, I was like, well, why don't they just build a nuclear plant? Wherever there was a coal mine, they should build a nuclear plant and flood the American grid with electricity. And when electricity is near free, industry can grow, Then even companies from abroad will move to America if there's like abundant, cheap electricity. We need thinking like this, not just people screaming all the time, and like trying to change your words, like what Tucker Carlson was doing to Mike Pence. He's, like I said, Mike Pence is a real gentleman, and, two people that really broke my heart that when they broke with Trump was Steve Bannon and Mike Pence, but maybe because they weren't pro-Russian. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe, and they were just told to keep quiet about this or something. And maybe Trump's like pro-Russian thing was coming out, and these guys are like, they still have a compass. They still have some sense of right and wrong. They have their compass is America, pointed towards America, towards Washington, not towards Moscow. And maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's why all these people like were dumping Trump, because they came to realize like what he was. But yeah, like I said, I'm a 2 times Trump voter, but it doesn't mean I'm like a blind follower, like some blind zombie. But anyway, that's all I got. Gym time is over. Time to get to work. The first day in 7 weeks, I don't have to study for one of these project management exams. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the summer. Take care. Bye-bye.